feels like to ride the ZX6R.
Whew. Anybody who does that kind of headbanging live on stage and says they don't get dizzy, they're lying to you. I'm dizzy as hell right now. However, that is not gonna stop me from having a good time with this Kawasaki ZX6R right here. I am going to be spending the whole day in the saddle on this bike. But today, we're not just answering the question whether or not this is a good motorcycle. I think a lot of people can admit right out of the gate that this is a good motorcycle. The question we're trying to answer today instead is, can you actually have fun riding a motorcycle like this all day long? And that is what we're going to be answering today. Now, before we hit the road, I do want to shout out the fact that I have already done my raw first impressions on this motorcycle. I wanted to keep this review nice and tight. If you want to see my first impressions, the link is in the cards right above. But today it is all business, and we are going to be taking this motorcycle first to see how it feels in the twisties.
All right, folks, if we're going to be squidding out here today, we got to come to the squiddiest squid road in all of Austin, and that is Lime Creek. This is where all the squids hang out. But enough pontificating, let's talk about this motorcycle in the twisties. Now, the biggest thing for this review that I'm going to attempt to not talk about is this bike really being meant for the track. I'm just gonna say that right now. This motorcycle is meant for the track, and I'm not reviewing it as if it's a track motorcycle on the street. I'm reviewing it as a street bike. So, as a street bike, how does this feel on a twisty road? Oh my God, it feels so good. It feels so good. This thing is blisteringly fast. There's basically no point at which this motorcycle feels slow or like, you know, you're out of place or anything like that. It's just a very, very good package. You really do feel all of the effort that went into making this motorcycle just handle like a dream. However, it's hard to not escape the feeling that I'm taking a bazooka to kill a fly. You know, I'm cruising here at like 45 miles an hour, which is about the speed that I'd be willing to go down Lime Creek. But I know, deep in my heart of hearts, I know that I'm disappointing this motorcycle. I, as the rider, am leaving this motorcycle wanting more. And you can't really escape that fact. Is it a superlative riding experience on the side of the tire? Yes, without question. And it is effortless. It is effortless on this motorcycle. I rarely feel this kind of confidence because the motorcycle is just doing so much work for me. And not in the sense that like the technology is doing the work, just the architecture of this motorcycle. The bones are so strong that when you throw a corner at it, it's like, come on, dude. Really? That's all you got? That's all you want to do? You want to go through this corner at 25 miles an hour? Why wasn't your knee down, man? It's really hard to escape that feeling on this bike. But, you know, even though I definitely am not getting anywhere near scratching the surface on this motorcycle, it's so much fun to just play pretend MotoGP out here, you know? Like, let's be real, a lot of guys and gals who get bikes like this are watching racing and they're like, oh dude, those bikes, they're so cool. I want one so bad. I want that experience. And I don't blame you at all. And it's hard to not feel that like lineage as you're, you know, running through the streets on a sport bike. It's hard to just be like, oh dude, I feel like I'm doing, you know, the last few sectors at Coda, man. Oh, I feel so cool. I feel so cool. Yeah, power out of the corner. such a fun way to ride. It's so, even if you're not pushing, you know, you get your body position and you're like, you know, the kickstand has more lean than you do, but your knees out like you're trying to touch the ground. It's so much fun. And maybe I'm just a goon, but, you know, I don't know. I come to motorcycles to have a larf. And this is a very larfable motorcycle, especially in the twisties. But part of what makes this motorcycle feel so nice out on a twisty road has to be the engine, which gives me a great opportunity to pull the bike over and talk a little bit about the specs package in this bike, because there's actually a little bit more under the hood than you might expect on the old ZX6R here.
Diving on in here with the specs on the ZX6R, this thing is powered by the 636cc inline 4, the cheater inline 4 that everybody either loves or loves to hate because it's not a real 600. So every class has a gatekeeper, right? Anyway, I think the reason they're sour is because this motorcycle is making 127 horsepower and 52 foot-pounds of torque or thereabouts, which makes it the most powerful 600, period. The nice thing is that power doesn't come with a weight premium, really. It's only 430 pounds, which is right in line with the other 600s in the class. Another thing that might make some other 600 boys a little sour is the technology package that's on here. It's not really all that robust, but there are power modes, there's some traction control modes, and there's a quick shifter on this motorcycle. We're all gonna talk about that more in a second, but I just wanted to note that it is here. Now let's mount up on the motorcycle and see how it feels. Now, for those of you guys who are new here, I am 6'4" in my gear. I weigh 240 pounds, which puts me on the high side of riders for the ZX6R, and it feels like it. This is a small package. I am really pushing the limits on what I would consider comfortable on this motorcycle. I do have a little bit of room to move around fore and aft on the seat. It's nice and wide and I can get side to side really quickly as I'm riding around, but it's really hard to get past the fact that this motorcycle is a teensy tiny package and your hands are at knee height. This is a very aggressive riding position. And as somebody who has been riding this around with a backpack full of camera gear all day, I can't tell you, it's not exactly the place that I would want to spend a whole day on. Now, some busted ergonomics does give me a good segue into my favorite and least favorite things. And we're gonna start out with those ergonomics again. Boy, are they punishing. A pro though, this engine is the best out of any 600 that I've ridden. I've ridden an R6, I've ridden a CBR 600R. One of the biggest negatives that you hear people throw at 600s is that they feel gutless on the street. And this right here feels the exact opposite of gutless. It is not like a big MT-09. It's not giving you a big smack of power, but in the mid-range, which is very wide on this motorcycle, you actually do have some usable power, especially if you're in full power mode. If you're in low power mode, it feels a little bit lame. And that's gonna get me to something else on here that I don't really love, is I don't need adjustable rider modes on this thing. Why are they that? Like, okay, I get it. They're there so that you can tone the bike down a little bit in the rain. You're not gonna ride this in the rain. You're only gonna ride it on days like today where it is sunny and beautiful out. Another thing I wanna talk about is I don't really love the quick shifter feel. From 1 to 2, it doesn't feel great. Something about the gap is really, it's really wide and lurchy. Every other gear feels awesome, but 1 to 2 doesn't feel all that great. And the pedal has a little bit of extra give. The shift arm has some extra give as a result of the quick shifter being in there. So it does feel just a smidge sloppy. Now with that being said, let's get this bike out on the highway for the highway section, because I have to do it, even though I don't want to do it. We have to talk about how this bike handles on the highway as a commuter, and let's go. Let's just do it.
Why? Why would anybody do this? This is not fun. This is not fun. Oh, okay. Okay, guys. We're just gonna say right now that this is a very uncomfortable place to sit. This is not what this motorcycle was designed for. I have been riding since I filmed the last piece of camera for like 90 minutes. And I'm wearing a backpack with all my camera gear. And my back is killing me. If I didn't have a backpack, it would be slightly better. Slightly, like I'd be able to maybe go like 2 hours, maybe 2.5. But, you know, if you're gonna be commuting on this motorcycle, you're gonna have to have a backpack because there's no place to store anything on this thing. You have to wear a backpack. And, it sucks. It sucks so much. Oh, I gotta stretch. Like you have to crane your neck up, and it's just this is a highly unpleasant situation. I'm not gonna lie. But let's move on beyond that and talk about the motorcycle itself. Let's talk about the bike itself. In a vacuum, it's actually really nice. It's got plenty of passing power in the mid-range because of the extra grunt from the few cubes. Like I can be right behind that car ahead of me in a blink of an eye. It's actually really a usable, streetable engine, which is surprising. However, because it's a teensy tiny little 636 split into 4 cylinders, it is very buzzy. At 8,000 RPM, I'm feeling this crazy high frequency buzz going through the bike, and it only gets worse the higher up you go. And it gets better if you shift down, and the tender mercy there is you have the grunt. You have the grunt from the engine. So you can keep it a little bit lower down, but it's really hard to escape the vibration on this motorcycle. Now, normally I talk tech while I'm out here. There's very little to speak of. I will show you the low power mode here real fast. Give me a second to flip it on. Come on, press and hold. Why aren't you blinking? Close the throttle maybe? There we go. You gotta close the throttle first. Okay, so we've got the low power mode on now. You don't have nearly as much grunt, but there is still some there. And honestly, I don't feel enough of a difference between the modes to really justify the existence of the low power mode. As I said in the pros and cons, it doesn't really make a difference to me because you're not going to ride this thing in any other way than in full power mode. It's not like you need the low power mode to warm up because it's making so much power, you know. It's never going to walk away from you unless you literally just ride the throttle like that. That's the only way it's going to walk away from you. And it's going to do that in low power mode too. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So, technology on this, yeah, I could take it or leave it. The traction control, it's okay. You know, I've felt it a couple of times when I got on the gas a little early and, you know, the tires started stepping out on me. But, you know, it's really hard to ride this motorcycle hard enough to need it. So I'm going to do myself a huge favor. I'm going to quit bitching and get off this motorcycle. And let's answer some Discord questions while I'm waiting for my back to start feeling a little bit better. God damn, this sucks. This really sucks. Okay.
All right, let's dive in with my favorite part of this, and that is answering some Discord questions. There's always some good goofing off in here and usually some pretty cogent questions that I can apply some rambly answers to. Now, if you are interested in joining the Discord server, all of the information is over on Patreon. Link is in the description below. It would be above if you're in the comments section, but it's below. Right? You can just click down there. All right, let's dive in with the first question from Sloth. Which is worse, Kawasaki green or Ryobi green? Honestly, I'm a Ryobi guy. All of my power tools are Ryobi, so I'm gonna have to go with Kawasaki, although I do like the way that this bike looks. Dorisa asks, does smoothing your brain out help with the aerodynamics and make the ZX6R go faster? It certainly makes you go faster on the ZX6R, but in all seriousness, we goof about 600 boys being low IQ and all that, but these are really fun motorcycles, and I totally understand why somebody would want this experience. It's just really not for me. In that vein, Hypothetical asks, do you wish you were spending the whole day on a Ninja 650 instead? So ergonomically, yes. In terms of the engine, hell no. I really dislike that parallel twin in the Kawasaki 650s. And this is a really great engine. The ergonomics are just so busted for the street. Make a ton of sense over on a racetrack, but on the street, I've been like standing and stretching for like 20 minutes just to try to get feeling back in my shoulders after doing the highway segment. My shoulders still hurt. Full Metal Corgi asking, does it come with a lifetime supply of Monster? No, you need to get sponsored for that. And secondly, is it worth the 5K upgrade for the ZX10 or not? Honestly, I would take a 600 over a 1000 any day of the week. 1000s are, I don't even know how to describe how fast a 1000 is. And this has plenty of torque. Honestly, it's not the torquiest bike in the world, but you know, 55, 52 foot-pounds, it's nothing to sniff at. I really do like the way that the engine produces its power. And a 1000, good God, you need to know what you're signing up for with one of those. Quips and Guac asks, would the ZX6R be the Apex 600, or does the honor lie with the R6 and Gixxer 600? Personally, for the kind of riding that I would do, this is the 600 to get. I don't notice the weight. I don't notice it being slow to flick in. I really like the extra power. If I was trying to take it to a racetrack, I definitely would benefit from being able to keep this bike in the mid-range and still have some power. And then on the street, of course, mid-range is all that matters there. You're really not gonna be able to scream this bike. So you're still getting a healthy amount of power out of it, even if you're just poodling around at 8 grand. Aversa asks, for a fast and agile daily commuter that's also fun on the weekends, would you rather have the ZX6R or the MT-09? Why would you prefer it? MT-09, SP, all day, every day. The electronics are a little bit tighter on it. The power band is better, and the ergonomics, there's no comparison. Definitely an MT-09. Leapman 137, would you say the power band is as peaky as an R6? No, not even close. The R6 isn't even awake until you're over 12,000 RPM. The ZX6R, it's alive from 4 grand up. So, you know, this is a much more usable power band than the R6. And with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this section. Let's kick it back onto the street one more time after maybe I go get some ibuprofen. And let's wrap up my thoughts on the ZX6R.
Okay, folks, now to start wrapping things up here, I want to just say right out of the gate that, yeah, it's very clear to me that this is not meant to be a street motorcycle, and I'm reviewing it as such. But, you know, they put a license plate and blinkers on it, so you gotta ride it as a street bike occasionally, and I would consider myself a pretty tip of the bell curve street rider. I'm not crazy fast, but you know, I've gone through a handful of schools and classes, and I've done lots and lots of miles. But even with all that, I really don't feel like I'm getting to use everything that this bike has. In that sort of not necessarily antagonistic, but you know, it's like egging you on. You really do feel this motorcycle sitting underneath you being like, come on, let's go. I can do it. I swear to God, I can do it. You just have to have the balls, and you have to trust me. You know, it's one of those things. It's such a good motorcycle that you really can't just let it do all the work for you. And in fact, the more you do that, the better it feels. You know, the brakes are phenomenal as long as you don't just grab and stab and jab at them. And it dips into a corner so nicely, and all you have to do is just guide it through. You know, it knows what it's doing. It's almost telepathic in the way that it rides. And on the street, that's thrilling for like a minute. You know, it's not like I'm bored out here. I'll say that. I'm not at all bored of riding this motorcycle. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And the power is delicious on it. It feels so nice. But you also run into the fact that you're literally just on the street. You're scraping the very edge of what it can do, you know. There's no way for you to use this bike in any way that it's really capable of being used. And I think that's going to inform your purchase decision on a motorcycle like this. If you live somewhere like in Austin, I really would not recommend this motorcycle. I mean, yeah, we've got Coda, we've got Harris Hill, we've got a bunch of tracks in the Texas area that you can take this to. But you can't just go out and ride it on an afternoon and have a really good time, because you have to, in Austin, you have to ride to your twisty road. And when you get there, your twisty roads often look a lot like this, where you have a car in front of you. And it's hard to have fun on this motorcycle when a car's in front of you, because you can't ride it on its terms. This is a motorcycle where you really have to commit to the bit when you're riding it. If you don't do that, it doesn't feel particularly good. Pretty much on a twisty road, the only negative I can really come up with this motorcycle with, if you don't count my saying that, oh, you can't use it right, which I think that's kind of a non-answer. The biggest gripe I have with it is that the quick shifter feels kind of funny. So that's like maybe a half a point off. Otherwise, it's like a 10 out of 10 motorcycle on a twisty road. It really is. But then you get out to this, right? And this is what most of Texas looks like. And for this, I have to rate this motorcycle like a 1 out of 10. The only way it could be worse is if it had less power. I really do not like this thing on the highway. You know, it's a miserable place to sit. I have no fun on it. But it's not meant to be here. You know, it's not meant to be here. So I completely understand that, and that I just say this stuff so you can quantify when I say that this is like a 5 out of 10 motorcycle. It has this dual character about it, where on the side of the tire, it is just, it's exhilarating, it's thrilling, it's unbelievable, and it's so capable. But then you have to sit up straight, and you have to cruise at 55 miles an hour, and you just want to bash your head in on the dashboard. But then you have another twisty corner here, and you get to speed up, and you get to have a little bit of fun. And then the road straightens out, and then you just like, come on, where's the next corner? Ah! And then the next corner comes, and you get to have some fun. So there's this dual character about this motorcycle, and if you're there for it, the ZX6 is going to make you so happy. It's also eminently obtainable. It's like 10 grand for the without ABS version, which is what I would get. That's a screaming deal. Holy cow. Oh yeah, come on, let's have some fun. You know, it's just this, it's when you get it on the side of the tire and you can just go through a corner. Oh, it's fun! But you can't do that everywhere. And you have to remember that this isn't a racetrack, and you're bound by the, you know, laws of mortal. You're just bound by mortal man's law. And that's a bit of a bummer. So With that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I really do enjoy this motorcycle when it's used on its terms, but everywhere else, I gotta give it a miss. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at the ZX6, and you know, if you're at all interested in getting this absolutely spick and span, spotless, clean version of a ZX6, all the information is going to be in the description down below. A huge shout out to AF1 Racing for getting me on this motorcycle, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.